Alright, we finished putting the first coat down, and so now we're going to go with some more details. And again, take the small brush, and of course I hit this with a hairdryer to make it all nice and dry, and I'm going to take some of that raw sienna, which has a really nice kind of golden color. And again, nice and light. Check the hue on a small piece here. That looks pretty good. And then I'm just going to build up the color. Add in some shadow. And we're going to remember the light's going to be coming from this direction. And if you're not really sure where you want the shadows come from, you can always do a little mock-up before you start your painting and just kind of pencil it in on another sheet of paper, kind of make your move before you start. But you do want to be careful about doing that because you can lose some of the spontaneity to your piece. Sometimes making it up as you go along is good. And you can do a little bit of wet on wet. You can take your brush and dip it in the water and kind of color over the area you want in just water, and then take a little bit of the paint and just tap it in there and let it feather out. Just gotta be real careful about that because it's hard to control and it can sometimes go where you don't want it to. But it'll make some neat designs doing that. Mix it up so it's not all the same looking. Take a little bit more water. We're also going to hit this with a little bit of white paint here and there. Traditionally, watercolors don't use white. White is usually for mistakes and stuff like that, but technically this is mixed media, so we can add white if we want to. You can even use color pencil or marker to add in a few details here and there. There's absolutely no reason you can't, unless you just want it to be straight watercolor for your own personal preference. I'm just going to go along like this and choose areas that I think ought to be a little bit darker. Help make that sparkle. On the underside of the chain. But remember, more intense hues are going to come to the front, so you always want to keep that in mind when you're painting. You don't want to make the pigment too dark in an area that should be in shadow, because it can kind of upset the balance of your picture. Make the person look where you don't really want them to. Alright, and I will continue on with the details of the gold, and I'll come back in a bit when we move on to start doing the brown. You just kind of layer it up over itself little bit by little bit, working from light to dark. The reason you want to go from light to dark is because you can make it have a lot of nifty transparent layers. If you start with the dark, the light colors over it really won't show up, not unless you're doing a more acrylic painting style, because that's what you do in like true acrylics or oils. You work from dark to light because you can layer it up differently. Watercolors, that doesn't work quite as well. It just tends to make mud, and you'd want to try to avoid doing that. Alright, you can pretty much see what I'm doing here, so I'm going to work a little bit more and we'll be back in a moment. Alright, I finished up with a lot of the yellow, so we're going to add a little bit more layering to it. Something I wanted to point out was about hair and grass. I know there's no grass in this picture, but the saying goes true for that too. You don't always have to paint every single blade of grass. You don't have to do every strand of hair. What we're going to do is just give suggestion. Because if you do every single little blade, it tends to look kind of funny. Or every strand. So I got some more of the kind of orangish paint here. And we're just going to add a little bit more detail here using the number 2 brush. And just do a few strokes here to illustrate the fact that it's not just one mass of hair, but strands. But I'm not going to make sure that there's a whole line down there. Just representative. And you also want to add some highlights because hair is very shiny. And always make it look pretty spiffy when there's that little shine contrast. There you go. Add a little bit more water there. A few little strands here and there. Come along the back. Just give a little bit of strands here. Just enough. And I think I'm going to come back in with a even darker brown with some mixed with some of this color to help give it a little bit more definition too. But I want to make sure it stays gold looking. He's a blonde, he's not brunette. There we go. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to take the, what color was this again? Burnt umber, and mix it with the raw sienna just a little bit. Because a little bit goes a long way here. A little bit more. Let's see, test that on a piece of paper, that's fine. Oops. Dry my brush off a little bit so it doesn't have too much water on there. I'm going to test it down here a little bit. That's still pretty dark, so I'm going to add a little bit more water. There we go. Add a couple more strands here and there, especially where there's there should be some shadow. Help define the face separate from the rest of the hair back here. Nice light strokes. Right behind the ear there. Darken that up just a tad. Alright, there we go. Got the earring in there, and then I'm going to have to fix later with the ink because it got pulled off by the frisket. This is almost dry brushing because I'm barely using any water at all. Fill in his eyebrow here. Just be really light as I add in the little marks. And again, I'm not drawing every single strand, just giving a little hint of it. I'm going to do it in the middle here because everybody's roots are a little bit darker than the rest of the hair, even when you don't dye it. There we go. Just a few dots.